welcome into this week's edition of the Citrus Preps podcast alongside Mike Deem. I'm Brett Knudsen, and we are, believe it or not, this will mark
almost halfway.
Week 5.
This is halfway, yeah, right.
Friday night, we'll be halfway through the season, and it has obviously flown by. I'm sure it's even a little harder to believe for the coaches that they're looking up and they're saying, man, it's halfway over, and we've got now really the meat of the schedule. The important games are coming. Just about everybody has played a district game. A lot of district games got underway last week. Lecanto still has yet to play a district. They're in a small district with only 4 teams. So, but still, a big week of high school football last week. Mike, I know you were out of town on business, so unable to make it. But interesting week, and unfortunately, I was talking to somebody who said, it's almost like we've gotten used to this. It started early Friday with the tragic news of a Hernando High sophomore passing away in an automobile accident on his way to school. The game originally between Crystal River and Hernando was going to be postponed, canceled for Friday night, and obviously moved at some point. And then somewhere during the course of the day, Hernando got together, coaches, players, staff, administration the kids decided really, we want to play for our teammates, so we're going to play Friday night. It happened a year ago, right before the season started with Citrus High, the passing of a young man. It happened a couple years ago, mid-season with Brooksville Central, with the passing of one of their players. And unfortunately, like I said, it seems like
once a year
the coaches are sort of used to it. And I saw I say a nice tweet, but a very positive tweet from Nate Varnador to Coach Kazmaier at Hernando, because they went through it last year, saying basically thinking about you, praying for you. Tough set of circumstances leading into that game on Friday night. We'll hear from Crystal River here in a few minutes, and with the story we put up this week on our YouTube channel, they talked about how it's bigger than football. It's about the brotherhood. But when they say you got to line up and play the game, you got to line up and play the game.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. And that it's sometimes it's cathartic to do that. You don't have to worry about you play something that you really love to to play and enjoy, and that gets your mind off of some of the circumstances that are surround this tragic event. It's just it's hard, and Hernando coming in and traveling. It's really difficult to travel and also more a teammate. Crystal River did a good job, and it was a tight game at 7-0 and a win for Crystal River, but still kind of tough to play in those circumstances.
Yeah, it was. It was a game really about let's say the overriding storyline was turnovers, but turnovers and mistakes. That really shot Hernando in the foot. They had trouble on offense all night. Give Crystal River defense credit, but whenever Hernando would sort of creep across midfield, a key turnover would pop up, and one of those turnovers Crystal River was able to turn into points. A Noah Bresson touchdown run. He of course had the big pick at the very end of the game to seal it. I didn't think Hernando was going to drive down the field with just a few seconds left anyway, but still good job by the Crystal River defense. And boy, it's been an odd season for Coach Lowry and that team. They have 2 wins, both shutouts. The 2 losses, they were shut out. So it's been an interesting up and down 4 weeks for the Pirates, but more importantly, it's a win. They're 2-2, and it's a district win against a team in Hernando. Still trying to figure out how this district is going to play out, but I think if you look at it now, Mike, another loss by Nature Coast last week. Citrus is sitting right there at 4-0. I think, with Nature Coast and their history, you have to believe they are the team to beat until somebody in the district beats them.
Right.
I think it's very likely they do get beat this year, but they're the team to beat. Obviously, Citrus is playing very good, confident football. I think you put them right up there with a chance to win the district. And Crystal River, I think, is right there as well. I think Hernando is going to have a tough slide anyway, because they lost a lot last year in terms of offense and running the football. So I think I don't know if they're going to be a factor in this district race. I don't think Weeki Wachee is, nor Central. So it's a 3-horse race, Crystal River, Citrus, and Nature Coast, and it's going to come down to the last couple of weeks of the regular season. And I'm glad we've got, we got Crystal River. We got Nature Coast and Citrus on Citrus Preps. We also have Crystal River, Citrus on. So those last 2 weeks are going to be huge.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And you got to give kudos to the Crystal River defense, holding them 127 yards. Yes, there were 4 turnovers. In fact, Evan Loudon had 2 of those turnovers on recoveries. Manning Hampton had 1, and of course Noah Bresson, player of the game, interception and a touchdown. He also had 8.5 tackles. He led the whole team. So definitely Noah Bresson was there. But the defense and Cliff Lowry's defense just doing its job, basically. And that's what you said. It's like the defense steps up one week and the offense, just kind of coasts, and then it reverses itself on every one. So that's why they're 2-2.
Yeah, they've got to get some things fixed on offense. I think they realize that. You're going to have to score some points, a few more against when you face Citrus, when you face Nature Coast. They do get to go out of district this week. It'll be a good test for them when they take on Springstead. But
6A school,
a big school, a team that's off to a good start and playing a little more like Springstead is. So they've got to get that fixed. But they're 1-0 in district. They've got to win, and you've got a few weeks to sort of get that stuff ironed out. I think the question is, can they get it ironed out? Can Crystal River score with Nature Coast and Citrus when we think those are the games that are going to matter? But they've got some time to get it fixed.
Yeah, and they've got some playmakers. You just got to have this playmaker step up in the right positions, and that's what they need to do. Cliff Lowry's going to find somebody who's going to be able to put some points on the board for him.
And if the defense keeps doing what they've been doing, you only need 7 points.
That's true.
That's all they needed, in 2 of their wins. So this was Coach Lowry and Ashton Bosley talking on Friday night after their win over Hernando.
You play good defense and then, combo that with some turnovers that put you on the plus side. Helped us eat some clock, helped us put some drives together, and we gotta do a better job of capitalizing on those things going forward and putting some points on the board. But as I told our guys, they don't say whether the win was pretty or whether the win was ugly. It's just they say you won.
We're feeling real confident. Our defense is definitely excelling. We make plays, and that's what we do. We were able to turn the ball over some and definitely shift the movement of the game.
That could have been a district title game right there. You just don't know. Our district is so talented, so many great players, great coaching. It's a very competitive district that we're proud to be a part of, and it's a battle every week within this district, and we're excited about that.
Well, you talked about it. We remember last year that overtime battle with Nature Coast, and that really was the district title game. Yeah. I think as we look ahead, like we just talked about a few minutes ago, I don't think Hernando's going to be a player when it comes down to it in terms of either a record to get in with the RPI or the district. But, you got to win those games. That's the thing you got to be careful of. If you're Citrus, if you're Nature Coast, if you're Crystal River, your eyes are on those games, but you can't stumble against Central, Weeki Wachee, or Hernando right now if you want a chance to make it in, because we've talked about it before, a little different playoff format again.
Yep.
District champ does get in, and then after that it goes down to your RPI, which is strength of schedule. And right now the hard part, and I haven't looked at the other teams in the region, but Weeki Wachee struggling to win games this year. Brooksville Central was off to a 3-0 start. They look like, after they lose to Lecanto, how many more wins are they going to get this season? Hernando looks like they're going to struggle. So Crystal River, Citrus, and Nature Coast, may not get a ton of help from the other teams in their district, but that's everybody else, though, because the district's going to beat up on itself.
Yeah,
you're going to need those out-of-district teams to play well and win.
Yep.
And this week for Crystal River, you got a Springstead team that's racking up some wins, so you hope that they do well. And, of course, Crystal River and Citrus hoping Lecanto keeps winning football games to help out as well.
Yeah, speaking of that, coming up with Citrus, you're talking about going outside. They're going to be playing Westport.
Right.
Not helping them a little bit. They're 1-3, not as good as they were last year, but definitely outside of their district. And to look at it, going to need a big game for them. But beat Weeki Wachee 46-14. Really good game for Citrus. Robert O'Brien's got the team really clicking.
over 400 yards of total offense on the night. They put up another productive night of scoring points right after that win over Trinity Prep. Almost 50-50 in terms of rush pass, which I think that's when I know Weeki-Wachee's struggling, but that's most teams, but Citrus especially. They're a team that's physical. They like to run the football. If they can get some of those passing yards and some big plays, because they've got some big play receivers, can they come through in the big games? And if they can get close to, I know 50-50 is good, but I mean, if you can get 70-30 rush to pass or 60-40, they're going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about last year, Connor Bishop. We saw him coming into his own at the end of the season, and he's come into his own. He was 14 of 19, 219 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 interception. He had 15 rushing yards too, but that's a big deal to have a quarterback that can throw for that many yards and still be on target. And then you got a big receiver with Malachi Cooks, 6'2".
Yeah.
He's he had 8 receptions, 149 yards. That helps. You have that out there. And then, of course, you combine that with the 2 guys they got in the backfield, Weems and Wilcox, basically combined for almost 200 yards there rushing. So that's going to be that's a potent offense that Brian's got. That coupled with that defense, wow.
Yeah, he talked to me. I was out of practice yesterday, and he said, look, we knew going into this year it was going to take a while for everything scheme-wise, sink in with the players, get used to the speed just everything. It's going to take a little while. And he really felt like now 4 weeks into it, it's really starting to click, and they're really starting to function and feel comfortable in that offense. Granted, the last 2 weeks, the opponents were pretty conducive for putting up points, but you still got to go out there and execute, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
executing at 46 points is pretty good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you're playing. We see, I don't matter, even NFL, in college, there's teams that are significantly better than their opponent, but don't play to that level.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what Coach O'Brien has got to be proud of, that they're executing on offense, and the defense is doing sort of what we expected Citrus to do. This week, as you mentioned, it's Westport. Not the same Westport team that they were a year ago without the guy in Maurer who just took a couple snaps actually last Saturday for Tennessee as a true freshman. So, not the same team, but don't tell that to Citrus. They remember last year and have sort of talked about it this week.
42-14. That's what we lost by last year. And that's what our kids are thinking about today. They're not thinking about district. They're not thinking about non-district. They're not thinking about Westport being 1-3 and us being 4-0. That's not what we think about. We think about 42-14 and 1-0, and that's what we care about. And we talked about that on Monday in our meeting in our film room. And our kids don't forget what that felt like on our field last year to get beat up like that and kind of get embarrassed on our own field.
We see a really athletic front, especially in the front 8, and I don't think anything's going to change.
They got really athletic guys on their outsides and stuff. Their line's kind of big and slow, so I think we could beat them with speed this week.
That's what they're hoping for, is that the speed will help out. And I think one of the things you do worry about is what Coach O'Brien talked about. It's non-district. We've had 2 relatively easy wins in a row. How are we going to be mentally prepared? Are we going to go in there and beat a team that we should beat, take care of business, and get to rest some kids in the late 3rd, early 4th? Or are we going to let a team hang around? That's obviously something that they've talked about. And, I think the last 2 weeks certainly helped, because those are 2 teams that they put away when they should have put away.
And that's exactly right what you're saying, is that that's tough. That's the coach's hardest job, is to keep the motivation factor going along with wins and racking up wins and racking up points. I mean, now they come out, Max Preps had them ranked 9th in the state, so that all that starts playing into people's kids' heads and players' heads, and they go, oh, we can do this, no problem. But you got to put in the practice time. You got to be able to be diligent on the field and do your job, and I think Coach O'Brien will have them do that.
Yeah, so a chance to move to 5-0 for Citrus. Coach O'Brien, like I said before, he's straight up honest with us. He said, it's a doable schedule in the early half of the season, so a chance to build momentum and give credit to his staff and his players. They've taken advantage of perhaps a soft schedule and now are playing really, really good football, and they're going to be set up now for the back half of the season. And that state playoff bid is right there for the taking if they keep getting the job done. And we assume that they should be 5-0 going into next week. And before we get to LeCanto real quick, I mean, kudos to the county. I mean, you have 4-0 Citrus. Lecanto, we'll get to them here in a second, just improved to 2-2. Crystal River is 2-2. I know Dunellen is sort of marginal on our county as well, but they're undefeated. So
ranked high in the state team.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
It's
there's been some lean years for football in this county, and it almost, for times, you wonder, okay, other than when they play each other, where the win's going to come from. Crystal River had a great year last year. The other two struggle, but now you got 3 teams at 500 or better, plus Dunellen. So it's a really good start. So congrats to the staff, the players, everybody who's put in the work.
And also that goes back to every class comes in and it's a little different, and there's a change every single year. And that goes to the kids in the programs that are in the county also producing those players and having those players play 7-on-7 during the seasons and Pee Wee football and so forth. That makes a big difference, and that gets you ready for that high school season. So good kudos to all the other high school coaches that kind of push those players up to that point. We've got I'd like to be able to put a graph on this and see what years it goes up and down and how it goes through. That'd be an interesting kind of a thing to do on the side. But you see how things peaking back. Citrus, last a couple of years ago, they were down.
Yeah.
They were under 2 wins for the season. So you got to watch this, and you got to be happy for all the coaches and the athletic departments in this county.
Yeah, good start to the season, and hopefully, it keeps going. It'd be wonderful to see at the end of the year to see, Lecanto wins their district and gets into the playoffs. Dunellen is on their way to the postseason, and then, who knows? Maybe somehow the mathematics work out, and Citrus and Crystal River, one's a district champ and the other gets a wild card.
That might be cool.
That would be a heck of a year for high school football.
That would give us 11 games that we would be able to do.
There would be some playoff games, which would be fun to do. We talked about Lecanto, a win last week on the road at Brooksville Central. That makes it 2 straight wins. I don't want to give away too much inside information, but just talking to Lecanto before the game, I know Central, I think, was undefeated 3-0 going into the year. But I think Lecanto felt like, maybe they had played a little better schedule and were maybe a little more prepared for how that game was going to. They were confident they had a chance to not only beat Central but slow down Conte Kaysen. They not only slowed him down, they got him out of the game, literally out of the game. So that's a huge win. I mean, they beat him last year in district at Lecanto. That was one of those weird games where we were there on Friday night. Lightning put an end to it. It was rolled over till Monday, and they won. But a good offensive showing for Lecanto. And defensively they gave up some points, but you're going against the top rusher in the state who's being fed the ball time after time after time. So overall, a great win for the Panthers. They're on a roll. It's 2-0, the first time since 2015. They put back-to-back wins together. And, this week you take on a Villages team that was a playoff team a year ago, which I think certainly gets Lecanto's attention. And a chance to put together a 3-game win streak. So definitely. a lot at stake on Friday night.
And I was impressed with again the total offense, 416 total yards, but most importantly, 314 passing yards. Wow. Ryan Rogers threw for 3 touchdowns. And I'm telling you, that's when just what we talked about in Connor Bishop. You start seeing a maturity level for Ryan being able to pick out the receivers and being able to make the right calls and make the right throws. And that makes a big difference. And that offense is going to just continue to grow because they've got some playmakers. We talked about that in the first 2 games we did it with them.
Yeah.
Playmakers are out there for the Lecanto offense. They just need to get the ball in their hands.
Riley Green had a long touchdown catch. And, from just watching them the last couple weeks as they start to be it wasn't great against Weeki Wachee, obviously, and put up a ton of points. But when they're playing with the lead or close, that's when they can run their offense, and their offense is obviously run based, and they like those quick passes to the receivers. They're not a downfield passing team.
No, they had one downfield pass, and there was 2 screen passes that came out of that. That's what they use a lot of the screen passes.
And that's and to do that, you have to be patient on offense, and B, you can't be down multiple scores early in the football game. And when I talked to Lecanto, they mentioned that that Crystal River game was like a wake-up call. And I think that sometimes losses can just set you back, and it's like, what in the world's happening? And sometimes it can be like this ends right now. and I think that's what it did with Lecanto. It was like, okay, no, we're not going to let this season slide away like maybe some other seasons have.
Yep.
And, they've put together 2 straight wins. And, once again, you can argue that, wins over Weeki Wachee and Central don't knock anybody's socks off. But, those are games that you have to win, but go out and win them, and they did.
They did, yeah, exactly.
And so, they get a chance this week. It's our game of the week. They will host the Villages on Friday night, and it's a Lecanto team that was very happy with their performance against Central.
It was amazing. I mean, we're all starting to click on offense, starting to trust each other, starting to bond with each other more, everyone's starting to know the plays, putting more trust into each other. That's all it really is. After that loss to Crystal River, that fire that just burned, it just kept burning. And then we finally just used it instead of keeping it in.
Offense had a really good game, only punted 1 time. It was good to see. Defense, we just had a couple breakdowns. Other than that, they played really good too. So I think it's starting to come together. Kids are starting to believe. We'll just keep pushing towards perfection. Well, it's nice to be on a winning streak finally. A little bit more of what we expected this year out of the season. So, hopefully we continue to have good practices and can keep it going.
We're definitely getting better. Defense is stepping up a little bit, but the other night at Central, it held up, but it definitely wasn't good enough. We need to work on some stuff, but we're getting there.
They are getting there, and that's the positive thing. And it's one thing to hear the coaches, but you hear the players sort of talk about it. We're not there, but we're winning football games. So 2-2 is a good start, a chance to move to 3-2. They're a week away from the start of district play. So you obviously want to keep it going, have a good game against a Villages team that, I don't know exactly what their mindset is, but I know they're not having the year like they had a year ago. I think they always, the Villages, whenever they play, the bigger schools from, Marion County and from Citrus County, I think they always come in with that chip on their shoulder, like nobody respects us. Nobody thinks that we've got a chance. And even though they had a year like they did last year, making it to the state playoffs, I think they're going to come in here thinking, Lecanto's probably confident they're going to win. So I think it's going to be a heck of a football game on Friday night.
I think so too. And you saw from those things there, we talked about the playmakers they have on the offense. You saw the rack yards that they were getting.
Oh yeah.
Now there's some running for catches on those. That's what they're going to need to do against the Villages in order to get to win again.
Yeah, and look, there's some good athletes at Central. They've always had pretty good athletes down there, and Lecanto schemed it up really good.
Exactly.
We're able to get their athletes in space, and I think there'll be an opportunity for them to do that again on Friday night. It's going to be fun. I mean, it's been a while since we've been at a Lecanto game where there's some excitement and some confidence. I mean,
some buzz.
You got to go back to what the Jeremiah Lucas and Travis McGee days when they were able to make it to the state playoffs. This is an opportunity at home for them to, create some excitement around the program. And they got a lot of seniors, so this is a big one for them.
It really is.
So that's our game of the week, Friday night. You can check it out. Streaming live on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody who's making comments during the game, subscribing to the channel, checking it out. We certainly do appreciate that. Before we put an end to the podcast, we need to mention, I know it's Citrus Preps, but that line on the northern part of the county between Citrus and Marion sometimes is a little blurred.
It's right there
when you get with
it's divided by a river. Come on.
And kudos to Price Harris and his Dunellen Tigers. Shouldn't really be a shock if you just I think the shock was more of the rest of the state who maybe doesn't realize how good Dunellen really is. I mean, I know they have the tradition, and I know people in other parts of the state know Dunellen, but I think everyone has been caught up in Vanguard and North Marion, and that's the district. And here is little old Dunellen moving up from a 4A to a 5A school, and they're going to have a hard time. They came out and sort of smacked Vanguard in the mouth, held on for a huge win that may have been the biggest win in the state last week.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things that Price Harris has done this year is you watch Townsend start becoming a better quarterback.
Only a sophomore.
Yeah, and Riviera was the one that they had before, was running the show on that, and I think that makes a big difference when you can have a dedicated quarterback, and more passing. I mean, you talk about 267 yards, that's all they did, but 138 passing yards, and they've got some weapons on the outside there.
And they've got a defense that can shut down anybody.
Yep.
They're picking up the wins, and I mean, before the season, I think probably everybody was like, okay, I don't. It's going to be hard for 3 teams to make the playoffs out of that district. You would need 2 wild cards. It'll be hard to do. And now, if you're Dunnellon, you've kind of taken the first step ahead of Vanguard. So you're in really good shape at a minimum to get one of those wild card bids. And now you're set up for that game against North Marion as long as you don't stub your toe. That becomes a big one. And North Marion still has to play Vanguard too. And that's going to be that'll be a knockdown, drag them out. So Dunnellon has put themselves in a really, really good spot right now. And, I don't think it's hard-pressed to look and say if they can figure out a way to beat North Marion, they would go into the state playoffs as one of the favorites from this region. And
as they've been the last couple of years, really.
They look like, to me, a state Final Four team. I think
agree.
once you get past those first couple of rounds, anything can happen. But this looks like a team that, you're telling me they're in the state semifinals. I believe it. I can see it from them. And once you get there, you never know.
Yeah, good test coming up with Forest High School. Just kind of see a little bit bigger school, see if they can hang with those. And I think they can. I think they really could beat them Forest High School.
Yeah, they should. They absolutely should. And that'd be one of those challenges for, college coaches have a hard time with it. You certainly know Price Harris is. Look, this is a big game. We got to go out there and, we're the little guy. Let's go prove that we're as good as everyone told us we were a week ago. If you are, you go out there and you smack Forest in the mouth and you pick up a win and you just keep going. So it's a good challenge.
I definitely want to mention also that Seven Rivers Presbyterian lost to First Academy, but they played really well. 28-14 was the score. 309 total yards on offense. You're starting to see a little gel coming here, and you're starting to see some things going on. And just mark my words, next year or two, you're going to start seeing some of these people, the kids that they have in the wings, start coming in and taking over some things.
A lot of playing time, but they had a couple of kids dinged up during the week. I think at some point they maybe were only playing 12 kids really full time in that game. So it's every snap.
It's old man football.
Punt, you go back. Turnover, you just switch.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing. That's a wear and tear. It's not surprising that some of these fourth quarters are getting outscored a little bit, but they're hanging around in these football games, and you just hope they get rewarded with a win, and you hope they get a couple of these kids who've been nicked up and dinged up healthy, because I'm sure Coach Monty Van is sitting there going, man, give me 15 or 16 healthy,
exactly,
and a couple of rests going into that fourth quarter, we can pick up a win. So
and he's just biding his time on trying to make sure he's getting everything done here this year. But like I said, I've got some inside information. There's a lot of good little middle schoolers coming up that's gonna help them out.
They're happy with that middle school program, and they practice out there with the varsity most of the time, and I think that certainly helps out. So best of luck to them. So again, this Friday night we'll be out at Lecanto as they host the Villages. Kick off at 7 o'clock. You can watch it live on YouTube, streaming live. Appreciate our sponsors. Main sponsor is Eagle Buick, as well as Proline Tile. We've also got Deems Kitchen and Bath, Sweetwater Homes. So appreciate everybody helping us out with that. That'll be our live game of the week. Also, we'll keep you up to date on all the games going on around the area. As you mentioned, Dunnellon will be taking on Forest. Citrus will be at Westport, and Crystal River non-district at Springstead. So a lot of interesting matchups on Friday, and we'll keep you up to date on everything. So looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it with no rain.
Beautiful outside today. I don't know what it's going to be like tomorrow, but certainly we hope for the best, and we're looking forward to another exciting Friday night. Marks the halfway point of the season, believe it or not. So we're going to be out at Lecanto. If you check it out there at the game, make sure you're watching us streaming live, and we will keep you updated on everything going on across the area. We'll be back here again next Thursday for our Citrus Preps podcast as we keep you up to date, everything going on in the area here in Citrus County. Until next week and until tomorrow night, for Mike Deem, I'm Brett Knutson. We'll see you.